Hello, I'm Matthew Herrell and this is SEC Rewind, a month in retrospect. This month, young people become the sermon on Global Youth Day, High Wycombe organises a mental health awareness day, simple church members gather for a retreat, gospel artist Jason Nelson takes away the stage at Regent's Hall, and international communicators attend the Global Adventist Internet Network conference. Now, for the past 5 years, young Adventist adults across the globe have been a part of Global Youth Day. For the uninitiated, this is an initiative for young adults to go into their communities on Sabbath and actually be the sermon. This is a great opportunity for churches to really make an imprint on their neighbours through outreach. This GYD, Sabbath concluded with a broadcast from Newbold College featuring lots of events and activities from around the British Union and the Trans-European Division. One of our reporters was on location and had the opportunity to speak with some key people.
Hello, we've just finished live streaming the 5th Global Youth Day here at Newbold Church. I'm sitting here with TED Communications Director Victor Hulbert and with Newbold Theology student Pawle Trajkowski. Victor, I'm going to start off with you. Can you tell us a little bit, what is the concept of Global Youth Day and how does it impact the youth in the UK and in the TED?
I think you start off actually just by looking at this room where everything's being packed up at the moment. You've got a big bunch of volunteers here and you can then extrapolate that out. I was in London this morning and there were volunteers doing all sorts of things, most of which didn't get reported here because there isn't time. And then you extrapolate it out again to Poland and Norway and all of these different countries. And it's just nice to have a focus where people can come together and do something and be the sermon and reflect on that. And I'm all in favour of that.
Pawle, can you tell us your experience? What does Global Youth Day mean to you? And you were a part of the live stream, so you saw some of the reports. What were some of the ones that stood out for you?
I think the amazing thing about Global Youth Day is not only that we connect to the communities outside, but we also, as young people within the church, get a sense that we are part of one community because we're all coordinated, we do stuff on the same day, under the same theme, guided by the same spirit, and we do hopefully the same impact. So that's one massive element for me. We had a plot. I was meant to be this host who got into an accident and now I'm in a hospital. My friends come and they tell me what's going on around the world and I'm acting excited. I was genuinely excited and genuinely surprised by some of the things that were going on. And what stood out most for me is the fact that in many of those videos and many of those reports, people were doing whatever they're doing, smiling, singing, excited. I love that. And at the beginning of the stream, they told us that we must pay attention not to finish before the hour. That was not a problem at all. We had so much more material, which means that Global Youth Day is just expanding rapidly, that we had to cut some of the videos and cut some of the Skype calls and interviews just to wrap it all. And some of them got left out. So it just gives you a sense of how big and massive this movement is.
All right, thank you, Pawle. And I just want to say it was really exciting for me as well. Last year I got to be the host and this year I was behind the scenes. I was a producer and it was really exciting to gather all this information, all this material. Fantastic team. The SEC media really pulled it off. They did such a good job and our director was absolutely fantastic. So thank you all for joining us and we hope to see you next year at Global Youth Day 2018. Thanks,
Natasha. And let me encourage young people out there to continue being the sermon in your area. If you'd like to get involved in some GYD-like activities, please talk to your local youth leader, and I'm sure they'll be happy to support you. Dementia, cyberbullying, female genital mutilation, these are some of the difficult topics that were grappled with at the Mental Health Awareness Day, hosted by both the High Wycombe churches and local charity Connect to Serve. An invitation was extended to the local community to come and receive free health checks, to see demonstrations and to listen to seminars and testimonies. The local authorities and other organisations were also in attendance. Amongst them were the NHS, Thames Valley Police, Hope UK and Healthy Minds.
This whole approach, I find it innovative for our churches to be able to do this on a Sabbath for a start.
One of the reasons, obviously, we have set up this program is that we're obviously living in a community where People are now becoming more conscious of their health, and so we have set up this in order to set up some health screens to measure certain parameters. And so we offer this health screen free of charge. It is open to everyone. They can come down and get free health checks. We're all volunteers. We belong to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and one of the main purpose of the church is to evangelize in the community.
If we could open our doors, each one of our churches, at least 2 to 3 times a year, and forget the divine service sometimes, and forget some of the other programs that we have, and open up to the community and say, come on in, I feel that we would have better results where evangelism is concerned. This year is restoration. Let us restore our position within the communities that we serve.
We basically ran the children little corner. We went through different stations, and there was different people within our youth who basically did a little workshop for them. It was health related. Each station dealt with either trusting, sun, nutrition, water, so it all was related to health.
I would like to see more of our churches doing work like this, and it is my vision that I will enable more churches to do work like this in their communities, just like this.
Now, imagine if every Sabbath, instead of going to your local church, your friends and neighbours come to your home, you delve into the Bible from the comfort of your sofa, you share some great food, you maybe even go for a walk in the sunshine. That sounds good to me, but don't tell the president I said that. Now, if that sounds good to you too, then you might be interested in Simple Church. Simple Church is a way of doing church outside of the church building. Instead, small groups come together to worship every Sabbath, each week gathering at the home of a different member of the group. And that's about it. Simple by name, simple by nature. The theory is that Simple Churches create an environment that might be more inviting for some newcomers than conventional church services. The Simple Church Retreat took place this month, hosted by Pastor Milton Adams, the founder of the Simple Church concept.
Simple Church, very simply, is lay people who are church planting in their homes.
It's not like a set program time, certain time to another, from one time to another, but it's more fellowship. So people get together, we share how the week has been, and then we have a Bible study. And usually the Bible study is very relational. It typically lasts a little longer than what you would say should be between 40 minutes and 60 minutes max, because we really get into it and people share and relate their life experiences and get encouraged. And then we have a prayer session, so we share, prayer requests, we have a prayer session. Then we have food, which is like one of the most exciting parts, simply because that really gives even more time for us to fellowship. And then depending on the weather, we could go for a walk or sit around and play games or talk more, pray for each other. So typically the day would start late morning and go all the way through evening, and then people go when they need to go.
And the goal is to reach secular and unchurched people, because in America, but even more so here in Europe, people are walking away from churches by the millions now, and they're not going back. So the question is, how do we reach them?
We're finding that fewer and fewer people just turn up into a church. So part of the strategy is actually to put our homes at the center of missional activity, because people are more likely to come into a home than they are perhaps just to walk through a church door.
And that's the whole drive behind Simple Church, is to re-empower lay people, to make church so simple, instead of it being very complex, make it so simple that anyone with some basic training can go about it.
At every single Simple Church, they do their own church meetings and they plan their own with the aid of the Holy Spirit. Nobody is really kind of coordinating it top down in any way. There is a system in place, a support system. So if somebody's interested, and I would like to encourage, there is obviously a website you can go to, which is under our church, the general conference, you can find it in the ministries. And then obviously if you contact me, then what we do, we connect you with some church. So you could potentially come into our simple church or another one that's nearer to you and see how the service goes. So you get to talk to people and ask how it works. And if you decided that that's what the Holy Spirit is calling you to do, then there's a simple training sessions that are online courses. They're obviously through support. So they're just really courses that everybody can study and see for themselves, learn more about the principles, and really confirm that that's what they want to go and do. And then, yeah, there is a simple commitment, that I want to do it. And then there is a connection to another simple church that will make sure that they're in touch with you. So nobody feels completely left alone, because we are a community, although we're in small homes.
If you've been inspired by this report and would like to get involved with Simple Church, then get in touch with the Church Growth Department and they will be happy to guide you through the process. The London Area Advisory Council hosted a concert this month in the heart of London's West End. The headline act was award-winning gospel artist Jason Nelson, and the concert was an absolute sellout. I managed to have a chat with Jason Nelson before he went on stage. So we're just here now with the main man himself, the headline act for this evening, Pastor Jason Nelson. Jason, thank you so much for making a few moments to be with us this evening.
Glad to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
If I could just ask you, have you've been here for a couple of days now? What have you been up to since you've been here? Anything good?
Yeah, we did a little bit of sightseeing. We went up to, I want to make sure I say this right. We went up to the Westfield Mall for a little while. And then we went to, today actually, we spent some time on Regent Street and Piccadilly Circle doing a little shopping and sightseeing and things of that nature. And we used the underground. So we're basically Londoners. Is it Londoners?
That's the one. Once you've used the tube, you're true Londoners.
Well, then I'm a true Londoner then.
There you go. Excellent, excellent. Well, I wonder if I can just ask you, in the church, there's a lot of talent. We have a lot of talented musicians in the church. But one thing that I observe is that people tend to rely on songs written by other people. I don't know if it's a lack of confidence. Sometimes people have to bring their own songs to the forefront. As a songwriter, what's your process? Do you have a process that you specifically engage in when you're trying to write something new, or is it more organic than that? What do you do? How does it work for you?
I'm not sure if I could call it a process per se, but a lot of what we do is I use experience. As a preacher, I always draw from messages that are preached. It's a whole bunch of good information that you can draw from just from listening to the preacher and hearing whatever they're explaining on that particular day. Generally, every sermon you've ever heard is a song somewhere in there. So for me, I think it's just about being open and listening to what the Lord is saying. Because if our hearts are open to Him, He'll speak to us and really download to us what is necessary. I think fear plays a big role in why some people don't engage in the writing process, or just settling for that matter. When you get kind of accustomed to, I like the way they write, you can really buy into the fact that you don't need to. But I always believe that there is something significant about everybody's individual voice. Sure. And the strength of the song is not necessarily in a great melody or great lyrics. It's about your heart being transmitted to the audience.
So I know that you're a pastor as well as a singer and a songwriter. Which comes more naturally? What do you consider yourself first, a preacher or a singer? What comes more naturally for you?
Honestly, I think the pastoring comes a lot more naturally to me. And that's kind of a weird statement because I've been singing since I was probably 5 or 6 years old. But with regard to what I was born for, I really believe I was born to be a pastor. And not that it's easy, but I believe that there's a strong grace there for me to be successful as a pastor. And then the music is one of those innate talents that I've always had. And I've been a musician since I was 13, singing since I was 5 or 6. So it's just a part of my regular dynamic.
I mean, I was preaching in church today, and as I was coming to the end of the sermon looking to make an appeal, and I have to give a little signal to the pianist for him to start doing that. Are you in a position, can you just make your own appealing song? Do you preach and then do you go straight into an appeal song, or do you have a worship leader who does that for you? How do you run it?
It depends on the moment, honestly. So sometimes it's me, and we have a phenomenal worship leader at our church. So a lot of times he'll do it, or one of the other leaders that he would designate on that particular day. So it really depends. It really depends. Sometimes they sing a song, I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. And then other times I kind of just flow into it. And sometimes they sing the song and I'm like, I don't know if I'm good with that one, and we'll switch it up in the middle. It really just depends on the moment and what that hour dictates.
Okay, I mean, your worship leaders have a big task, because they know they have a big dog who's there overseeing, making sure that everything goes well.
You know what? We really don't play it like that. Sure. They're used to who I am now, so they really honestly don't care. Like, nobody in my church cares that I'm an artist. Sure. They are, really attracted to the ministry, attracted to the church itself and the constituency there. So it's not a whole lot of people who are there because I am a quote-unquote artist. Sure. Most people are attracted to the ministry, the preaching, and the services that we provide to our members. Sure.
If I could just ask you finally, if there was one song that you would recommend to any viewers, if someone was asking, what song best gives me a feel of who Jason Nelson is, of all your canon of songs? Your canon of songs? Are there one or two songs that you would say, these encapsulate my sound, my spiritual journey? These are the songs that I would recommend that you rush out and take a listen to. Is there one or two that you would recommend?
I mean, when you describe them like that, I don't know. But I guess the songs, if you want to kind of figure out who I am, I would say probably I Am. Okay. Is a strong one, and Shifting the Atmosphere is probably another. And if I had an option for a third, Nothing Without You would probably be the songs where you can say, okay, this is kind of a piece of who I am as an artist, as a pastor, as a songwriter. I Am probably encapsulates most of it, to be honest.
If I might be so bold to just throw one into the mix as well, I Shall Live. That was one of the first songs of yours that I heard. I Shall Live. But we can put that in the mix as well. The top four, if I can put my little pick in there as well.
Extra two, you got
You got four. There you go. Well, thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. I can't wait for the concert, and hopefully now that you're a Londoner, hopefully you'll be back jumping on the tube and mixing up with us again. Thank you so much. Thank you. Problem. And finally, TED Communications Director Victor Holbert is here in the studio to talk to us about this month's GAIN conference. GAIN is the Global Adventist Internet Network and is designed to bring communicators together to discuss ideas about how churches can use media, technology and communications. The conference took place at Newbold College. Victor, thank you so much for making the time to join us.
Pleasure.
Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about how the conference was.
Well, you're probably better to ask the people that went to it, but from my point of view,
Sure.
It was fantastic because we got roughly 150 people that are interested in communication, the internet and media across the whole of Europe. We had people from as far east as Russia,
Wow.
going right down to Portugal, from Iceland in the north, right the way down to Greece. It was a great event. And one of the strengths of it is when you bring people from all across Europe together and you bring in a few experts from overseas, from America as well, you get this networking and synergy and energy. You have people sharing good ideas.
Sure.
Sabbath afternoon we ran what we call Project Slam, which allowed people to come in with their projects, with things they've actually done or are planning to do, and they have a 10 minutes slot, not a second more, where they can just say, this is what we've done, and you look at it and go, yeah, if they can do that, maybe that's something we can do. Or for some of them, you can say, if they've done that, we can use it. Can we have your product? And there was a lot of sharing that went on during that weekend.
Now, I know that there were present administrators and leaders within the World Church, within the European Church. Were there also lay people that are able to come and participate and share as well?
That's one of the joys of it, because it is a mixture. We invite all of the communication personnel that are employed within the church in Europe to come, and some come, not everybody can.
Sure.
But we also encourage lay people to come, and particularly in the host conference, the host union where it's being held, and obviously being Newbold this time, that gave a great advantage to the South England Conference and to their sister conference up north. We had quite a good group. And they, I was sitting at lunch talking with them quite often, and they were saying, I can take this back to Battersea, I can take this back to my church, and here's some ideas. Yes, and they were really inspired, very, very positive.
I mean, I was going to ask how Gain is helpful for enabling members to really share the gospel with their local community, but even as I'm thinking about that, I'm realising that part of the point of Gain is that the whole world is your community. It's not limited to your specific postcode. But were there good ideas that were generated that will enable the members to really get the gospel and their perspective out to their local community?
Yeah, that's the whole plan of it. Gain when it was originally established, was basically 20 people sitting around a room saying, this thing called the internet has been discovered. I wonder how we can use it for Jesus.
Sure.
And from that very small meeting, it's grown to the kind of thing we have today. There'll be a Gain conference in Brazil in the summer, which will be a GC one, and they expect 600 people at that.
Sure.
We had 150 at this one. And yes, every time you go, you look and you see things and think, I can do that in my context.
Sure.
Social media, haven't got a clue how to do it, but here's a workshop, and people come out of it and say, okay, we can have a Facebook page or a Twitter account for our church, or even run your own personal blog.
Sure.
And actually, I'm very keen on that. I think within Adventism, and one of the best workshops, one of the best presentations I saw was actually from one of our young people in the church, Espen, who runs a vblog himself.
Okay.
And just shared how, you can be your authentic self, you can just tell your own story, you can be honest, you're not representing the Adventist church, you're just Victor Hulbert, or please don't be Victor Hulbert, be whatever name you have. And you can just share a bit of your life, and your faith kind of flows through naturally, and those kinds of things. And the other thing that encouraged me is he said, it doesn't matter if you make mistakes, because vlogging, it's quite natural. Sometimes, some of them, the professionals, artificially insert mistakes. I find I do it naturally.
Well, that's the authenticity you're talking about. Well, I mean, Gain in Brazil sounds absolutely great. I think that's something that SEC Rewind should definitely be at. Maybe you can use some of your clout at the division level to give us an invitation, bring us over there, all expenses paid maybe.
You can certainly have the invitation.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for making the time to come and join us in the studio today, and I hope that word gets out about Gain more and more people can come and have the experience that you're telling us about.
And we should just say they can go on the Gain Europe website, adventcom.eu, and we will be putting some materials up there from this Gain that may benefit people in a local church situation.
Great stuff. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just before I go, you might remember last month, Pastor Sam Gungaloo shared a project from Holloway Church where he took the young people off-site on a Sabbath and had a frank conversation about sex and Christianity. I just wanted to share that I took this idea and ran with it in one of my churches, Gatwick Church, and it was a great day. And so let me encourage you to try some of the things you've seen here for yourself, and I'm sure that you'll be glad you did. This has been SEC Rewind. If you have something planned that you think we should know about, then get in touch with us at the address on the screen and we would love to talk to you about it. Thanks for watching, take care, and God bless.